Hi, it's Dennis and Lisa McIntee. Lisa, today in the Drama Free Living podcast, we're talking about stepping into strength.
Nice.
Yeah, so let's think about it like a butterfly, right? Or, a butterfly, before it becomes a butterfly, what is it? It's a caterpillar. And the cool thing about what I love about that is it's the struggle, right? There's the struggle to go from the caterpillar to the butterfly. And it's in that struggle, right? It's in that challenge and in that change that transformation happens.
And you can't break open that chrysalis because it will die.
Yeah. And so it's really about stepping into your own strength and really owning your own stuff and really owning your adulthood.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right. And I think this is what we've seen is that, people that can take extreme ownership of their lives, they're the ones that really step in and have a fantastic life.
Well, it's the ability to relate as an adult to adults.
Yeah. Because here at the Drama Free Living podcast and Leadership Development Group, we are really on this mission to try to stop the adult-to-child conversation.
Right.
People act like children, so we treat them like children. And because we treat them like children, they act. And we have this one-up, one-down conversations, and it's just not helpful.
And it's really tricky because there's a psychological component to it, and there's also a behavioral component,
and an emotional component to it.
Right. It just gets complicated because then you multiply it by each individual that's in the relationship.
Yeah. So let's talk about today about how do you step into your own strength, step into your own power so that you really create the life that you want, the leadership that you want, the organizations that you really want. And I think the thing to really think about, a couple of things, Lisa, is that growth is really relational.
Yes, absolutely.
Right? And it's like emotional maturity develops the best in the context of safe, supportive relationships. And I think that's why the Roundtable has been so successful.
Yeah.
Right? We have these groups of 8 to 10 leaders that come together every quarter, and they're in relationships throughout the entire year with different connection points, and they can really be authentic with each other.
Well, and they commit to coming into it as an adult relating to adults.
And they've really commit to coming into it authentically.
Okay, and so let me just explain that. There are different positions that you can come into a relationship. So when we're saying come into a conversation with adults as an adult, there are positions of the adult, and that's the respectful, honoring position, right?
Yeah.
So, and then you've got the position of a child. Well, a child is really a one down feeling, and it's feeling intimidated. You can come into a conversation or a relationship as an adolescent, and coming into it as an adolescent is always challenging. It's you think of your stereotypical defiant adolescent. They're challenging the status quo all the time. And then you could come into the relationship in the parental capacity with an adult, and that's controlling, that's micromanaging, that's one-upping someone. And so when I'm having a conversation with you, an adult-to-adult conversation, I want to come in as respectful.
Yeah.
I don't want to come in as I'm the child and I'm feeling intimidated by you because it's just, you're just shrinking. I'm just shrinking down in my chair.
I can just even see it in your, if you're watching on YouTube, you can see Lisa kind of shrinking down.
I'm just hovering in my chair, or I can come into it as this adolescent and I am just here to fight you.
Yeah.
And so when you have a conversation with someone and all they want to do is fight, they are coming into this.
And we can say contradict or.
Right.
Yeah.
They're
justify,
challenging.
rationalizing.
Yeah. And they're coming into it as this adolescent position, or you could come into it. And I can have a conversation with you and I'm going to micromanage you and I'm going to control you. And that's the parental position. And you want to come in as just the adult. Yeah. And the thing is this is the difference. There's the prefrontal cortex and the amygdala, and there's the adaptive child, and there's the wise adult. Okay, so the wise adult lives up in your prefrontal cortex, and that's the adult-to-adult conversation in respect and honoring, and you're human and I'm human and we all make mistakes. But then sometimes we jump back into our amygdala, and this is our adaptive child, and that's when I either go child and I'm intimidated, or I go adolescent and I'm going to be all confrontational, or I go parental and I'm going to micromanage and control. And that's when I'm functioning more out of my amygdala rather than out of my prefrontal cortex. When I'm not functioning out of this wise adult that knows that sometimes life sucks and sometimes it's great and sometimes it's tough. And it doesn't matter regardless. I'm going to respect you because you're human and you're also an adult. Now, this is completely different than if you're a parent and you're having a conversation with a child,
Right. This
or
is two adults
this
trying
is
to relate
two
to
adults
each
relating
other.
to each other, right?
Yeah. Lisa, we have a client. He's a really good friend also, and he calls it his little Ricky. His name is Rick, right? And he told me the other day, it's like he blew up at one of his team members. Yeah, he says little Ricky just came out to play, right? Sort of his like adaptive child just sort of like showed up all of a sudden, and he was like yelling at his team. He said, "Man," he said, "I blew it."
So yelling at his, so his adaptive child showed up, and and which adaptive child showed up? It was that parental,
right?
That
talking
down, controlling, and yelling. Where little Ricky could show up, and little Ricky could show up challenging, or little Ricky could show up, and little Ricky could show up being just all intimidated and mousy,
right?
And regardless, that's all little Ricky.
Yeah.
That's not big Rick.
Yeah, and so I think it's this idea of really like they're just really being aware of like how you act, right?
Yeah.
And just really what state you're in. And Lisa, when you go back to that adaptive child, like aren't all those sort of like fear states?
Yeah, and
right? It's all
you're
fear
in
states.
overwhelm, and that's when you get burnout, and that's when you're under all that stress.
Yeah,
because they're different, like fear states or just states of insecurity.
Yeah, so
and that's really tough.
And so this is what we're talking about when we want you to step into your adulthood. Right?
Yeah.
This is really what it's about, like stepping into that strength of being like the wise adult, don't going like to adaptive child. And so part of the way that you really get healed is you got to have relationships.
Yeah.
Right? You got to have people in your life that are safe places that you can work through these things. The roundtable is a great example of we even start off. What's fascinating, Lisa, is that most of the challenges people bring are business challenges. Right? It could be cash flow. It could be hiring, firing somebody. It could be structural issues. It could be legal, tax issues, and they come in with these challenges. But when we really break it down, we come down to the core, and most of these core issues tend to be more personal in nature.
Right. And I know, so in our roundtable, they're all very, very successful business people. And this one person would apologize. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Or they would talk a lot. They would continue to talk, or they would interrupt. And you had to have a sidebar conversation and say, listen, when you do that, when you open your mouth and kind of talk over people, or when you apologize, or you talk too much, you're really showing your insecurity. And you challenged him, listen, I need you to keep your mouth shut, and I need you to not apologize. I want you to listen more than I want you to speak. And there was such a difference. So in our roundtable, they come in and they present, they get 30 minutes. Each person gets 30 minutes to present the biggest issue or challenge that they really want other people to help with. And it's total transparency. It's just the whole gamut of things. You never know what's going to come out in there. And the most recent roundtables we've had, this individual, their hot seats have been phenomenal.
He's a different person, but he needed that relational aspect
to be like, hey,
this is how you show up.
You are a very successful business person, and you are showing up insecure, and you are being insecure, and so you're not being vulnerable and fully transparent.
Yeah, and so this is what we mean by, listen, healing happens in a group, right? And we all have challenges, we all have issues, and the goal is really to become the healthiest version of yourself that you can be.
Yeah.
Right. And it's kind of like peeling an onion as we do. It's like you unpeel this and you show this, and then you unpeel a little bit more. And so this is why it's a continual journey.
And you're going to unpeel your onion your entire life.
Yeah.
It's just how life is.
Right. It's just part of the mess. If you have trouble embracing the mess, go back and listen to the previous podcast where we talk about how do you embrace the mess. Another idea with this whole idea of really growing into our adulthood and stepping into our strength is really having regulation and self-awareness.
Yeah.
Right. Almost being aware of your triggers, because we're all triggered by certain things, right? Being aware of your emotions and the impact it has on other people.
Okay, so like a trigger, like when you feel triggered or when something comes up, that's you going back into your amygdala. That's you going back into, your adaptive child. And you can show up in any of those three ways.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of what a trigger is you're going back into the amygdala, out of like your analytical functioning prefrontal cortex, right? And so you're going to either, when you go back to that and go into that, it's going to be something that is tied to typically an event or a situation that maybe you're still trying to work through. Maybe it really was tragic, and you're kind of still in pain over it.
Yeah.
And you're trying to work through it. And so you're either going to go one down and be intimidated, you're going to go challenging adolescent, or you're going to go manipulating as a parental. And that's kind of what is going on when the triggers are happening.
Yeah. So really it's this ability to self-regulate, right? When you're an adult, you're stepping into your strength. It's like you're able to self-regulate. Now listen.
And that was so able to self-regulate. You're like, hey, wait a minute. I'm aware. I just went into a total intimidating position. And I'm like, okay, you begin you are able to get yourself up back into your wise adult. That's kind of what self-regulating is. It's recognizing that you totally just kind of lost it. You can lose it inside. It doesn't even have to be an external losing it. But self-regulating is kind of like putting yourself back up into the wise adult.
Well, and it's this ability to match the response to the event.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, like we over-respond. Listen, if you have trouble with this, we actually created so it's only $9. It's called the Emotional Regulator. So if you want more information on this, grab that tool. We'll put a link in the show notes. Or if you have some team members, like get it for a team member. It's only $9. It's a great resource. But it's this idea is that when an event happens and we over-respond, then we can no longer deal with the circumstances or the event. We first have to deal with the over-response before we can ever get back to the problem or the issue.
Right.
And it's really learning how to not over-respond, but match that response, right? You don't want to under-respond and you don't want to over-respond. You want to simply match the response. And that is really, it's an art and a skill.
Yeah. And this emotional regulator, it's this hands-on tool. You actually physically can look at it, and it like is kind of like a trigger, a visual reminder. It's a trigger. And it also comes with a whole video of explaining how you go about it. And it's actually really cool.
Right. Because adults have the ability to match the response, right? A child over-responds, right? It's like they throw a tantrum. But how many people do we have on our teams, right? It's like something happens and it's almost like, wow, you're just acting like a 10-year-old. What the heck?
Or wow, you're really acting like a 15-year-old. You're so defiant.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like, this is where, just really learning to relate to people adult to adult. And then I think the next thing to really kind of think about as you kind of step into strength is that this is a process. Right? It's like we have different, unhealthy patterns, and growing in maturity, it takes time, it takes intentionality, and then it takes willingness to engage in the process, right? Because I know like one way where I don't engage in the process is when I get defensive.
Right.
Right. I get feedback, and if I have a defensive reaction, I can no longer learn.
And what happens when you go defensive?
I will give a pat answer. I know that. Oh yeah, I know. Right?
So you kind of go controlling, a little bit manipulative.
A little manipulative is where I go, right?
Yeah.
And we all have different places, right? So if you kind of find, but here's the thing, I think you got to be honest with yourself to really get help. And one thing that we're working on, and we'll just kind of call it out, is that like I gave you permission, to say, hey, when you feel like I'm going defensive, I need you to call me out on it,
right? Because
I'm not even aware. Sometimes I've had this. For 50 some years, I've had this response.
Right, because I can feel that energy. So when I say, hey, we really need to get the lawn mowed this week, and you say, I know, and it's a defensive position, but it's and it might not even be said in that way. It could be like, oh yeah, I know that. But what that really is you're dismissing what I've just said.
Yeah.
Oh, I know that means I'm smarter than you.
It's a one-up position.
It's a one-up position. You didn't need to tell me that. I already know that. Even if it's said in the most pleasant voice, that's really kind of the yuck that comes with it. And I can feel that energy change.
Yeah.
And so when I'm aware of what's going on inside me, and I can feel, I just kind of felt that energy change, and then maybe like, hey, when you just said that, just tell me about that. Like, what was going on inside? Now, I'm not going to say, hey, now sometimes I have, and sometimes it's fine.
Yeah.
Be like, hey, that felt really defensive. Or I can say, hey, kind of what's going on there? What's happening inside there when I said, we really need to get the lawn mowed this week. And you said, oh, I know, I know, I'm aware of that.
Well, and what's helpful is that question, like, hey, what was going on? It allows for that self-discovery and that conversation, that sort of that collaboration to happen. right? Where you say what was going on, and it gives me a chance to step back and like think what was going on. So I think as leaders, even with your teams, like be aware of the energy shift.
And we have to give each other
Yeah.
permission to do that. I
Right.
can't go up to maybe one of my team members that we've never had this conversation on and be
Yeah.
like, hey, I just really kind of felt an energy shift. What was going on? Now, the key is I felt the energy shift and I'm wondering what's going on. I could have been the one triggered. That other person, they might not have had anything going on. I say I felt it. Well, just because I felt it, does it mean they did something? No, it could be totally in me. And so it's a little tricky. You kind of have to work with it and you have to have permission to be able to speak to each other like this. Hey, what was going on? And it's not that we need to be in each other's business. It's that we're working on communication. We're working on collaboration. We're working on having safe environments.
Yeah.
And having a really positive work environment, work culture, or family environment.
Right. And then you wonder why collaboration and communication is like not working well. We're giving you we're giving you the answer. This is why it doesn't work well, right? This is some of the root cause. And here's the thing. You can't control how other people show up, right? But we want you to be the best version of you. We want you to be as healthy as possible. So just start to be aware of when you're feeling that yuck.
Yeah.
Right. And just be aware of the energy shift and the energy changes and then don't allow yourself to over respond. Right. You regulate yourself. You own your own self. You show up healthy, because I will tell you the best way to help people is for you to show up healthy. The best way to help your team is for you to be the healthiest leader possible.
Now, I mean, this stuff is stuff that we have spent thousands of hours working on. Whether books or therapy or
courses or workshops
or relationships with friends, just different things like that. I mean, it's hours and hours, but I can say each little bit we've put toward it has made my life better, more fulfilling, happier. It's made your life more fulfilling and happier. And I mean, you're a completely different person than you were when we first met. I mean, I liked you when we first met. Obviously, I liked you enough to marry you.
Yeah.
But that was a long time ago. That was 30-some years ago. And we were actually really dysfunctional and really codependent and didn't even realize it.
We didn't even know
it.
We thought
we were
what was
healthy.
crazy.
We thought we were great.
Yeah.
And we enjoyed being together back then. Well, I mean, I still enjoy it, but it's like there's such a higher level of freedom, such a higher level of happiness and joy of just me being able to be me. And it's okay. I can be me and who I am. I can know who I am, what I want and what I don't want. And that's okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, let's just kind of break it down. Like, what does it mean to like really own your adulthood? It really means like responsibility and freedom.
Yeah.
Right. It's like taking responsibility for your actions, knowing what you're responsible for and what you're not responsible for.
Yeah.
Right. And then letting go of some of these childhood dependencies or childhood excuses, like stop acting like a child. Right. Which means like how children act. Children don't use words. Right. Right. They huff, they puff. Right. It's like, but if you're an adult,
you can see it on them.
Yeah. It's like, hey, use your words. Yeah. Right. My 5-year-old doesn't use their words, but man, adults use their words, and then really kind of embracing consequences. Because I think sometimes if you're protected from negative consequences, right, it leads to a whole host of problems. It's like you never, ever see the damage that your decisions and your actions have caused.
Yeah.
Right. So really, this is why I think sometimes even with team members, like we got to stop protecting them from negative consequences, right? There are consequences for behavior and actions and letting them feel the pain. Now, we were talking about this with one leader, Lisa, and he actually told me, he says, I got it. He says, I think I'm going to let my team burn in hell more. I said, well, I don't know if I like the phrase burn in hell, and I'm not, but there was sort of a point of like, they did need to feel some pain because he always kind of stepped in and kind of shielded it from them. Mm-hmm. And so they never, ever grew.
Can you kind of put a little bit more context around that?
Yeah. So if somebody on your team, makes a decision, right, then they're responsible for the cleanup, right? It's like, hey, if somebody, if a team member like yelled at you and over responded to you, it's not my responsibility to come in and fix it, or it's that person's responsibility to come in and own the consequences of that and clean up that mess.
Yeah.
And then that's where real growth kind of happens. Mm-hmm. And then I think adults, like they have this delayed gratification,
Yeah,
right?
that's true.
Yeah, it's like you gotta eliminate,
Mhm.
you have to have this ability to resist the impulsiveness, right? It's almost like I have these long range goals, right? But I want ice cream tonight,
Mhm.
right? But I've got to resist this urge for gratification.
And part of that, like something that's really become quite big right now, would be intermittent fasting.
Oh yeah,
There are so
right.
many health benefits on intermittent fasting, and really all intermittent fasting is delayed gratification. And
Yeah,
it's teaching us, intermittent fasting is teaching us to have delayed gratification. It's teaching us, and when we do that in one area, just say with food, it actually gives us benefits in all the other areas because we're teaching, hey, I'm the boss of me and my
yeah.
body's these urges and this desires and this whatever it is that I want to do.
Hmm.
I'm gonna harness that because I can't just go out and do whatever I want. I
Yeah.
mean, that's how you get in jail, you know? I mean, or it's how you destroy relationships is if I just go out and do whatever the heck I want. But things like intermittent fasting can help you improve and increase your ability for delayed gratification.
Yeah, and really, Lisa, when you kind of break it down, it's like it's really very selfish,
Yeah,
right? Yeah, it's like, hey, we do things because, hey, this is what I want or this is what I don't want.
right.
But what if it wasn't all about you?
Yeah,
But how many times do leaders like we make it all about us, right? And really, it's like, hey, we got to step out and continue to make it, about other people,
right.
right? Which is sort of like at its core, like any addict or any addictions, right? They're very selfish acts,
Hmm.
right? They've made it like all about themselves,
Yeah.
right? And so really kind of learning that. So I think this whole delayed gratification, it helps you prioritize what really matters most.
Hmm.
And then it
What
really,
the important things of
yeah,
life
yeah, right. It's
rather
like,
than what you just want at the time.
yeah. And then I think,
And then that also helps combat, just this whole entitlement
Mhm.
that we're dealing with nowadays.
Well, and I think especially like the higher that you go in leadership,
Mm,
right? It's like the more opportunities you have to be entitled,
yeah.
right? Because you have resources, you have teams, you have right, and you have people, and you have all these. And if you're not careful, boy, it is a slippery slope
Yeah.
that you can fall into.
Hmm.
And it's things that we've even had to deal with, like in the roundtable, and have these kind of conversations, right? Because, and I told the roundtable a couple months ago, one of the groups, I said, hey, like your problems are real problems, and they're hard and they're difficult to deal with, but let's just tell the truth. 99% of the rest of the world would love to have your problems,
Yeah.
right? They would love to have these problems of, that you have. They're acute, but other people have problems of like, hey, I'm trying to get groceries for, I'm just
Yeah. I'm
trying to,
just trying to get food today.
yeah, right. And so just
Yeah.
stepping back and really kind of having, just an adult perspective
An
to these
understanding
things.
of how life works and how things are for other people.
Yeah. Well, and I think the thing that we've also seen with this whole idea of like acting like a child or acting like an adult is you think about it, like adults have this ability to avoid distractions.
Mhm.
Okay, because and here's what I mean by that, right? Because we find this a lot with leaders, right? It's like I'm distracted. I'm ADD, ADHD, or whatever label we want to put on it,
Now
right?
there is a true chemical
There is,
thing.
there is.
So you can't medicate human,
Yep.
and you can't go through and then change something that's actually a medical condition
Yeah.
without medicine.
Right.
But
So
sometimes there's human conditions that you don't need medicine for. Sometimes you need some trauma work or something.
well, and think about this, Lisa. Okay, like sometimes people that are really distractible, right? It's like I'm doing something hard, right? I've got to like write this proposal, and it's really detailed, and it's really hard, and I don't like the hard. Oh, let me go check my email. Oh, hey, I wonder what's
Yeah.
on X. Oh, let me go look at Instagram.
Yeah.
Hey, what's going on in the news? And I just find myself distracted, right? So when I'm distracted, here's a great question to kind of ask is like, what's the pain my distraction is soothing?
Mm-hmm.
Right? There's obviously sometimes like there's this
Yeah.
pain of like I'm doing a hard thing or having a hard conversation or I
Mm-hmm.
don't like this. It's like painful, whatever that looks like. And distractions are usually a soothing mechanism
Yeah.
for that pain.
Yeah.
And really understanding like, hey, what is that soothing?
And it's stopping, backing up, and increasing your awareness.
It really is, right? And great leaders have great awareness.
Yeah.
And it's really why we created EI, to really kind of give you the awareness of how you communicate to
Right.
yourself, right? So that's a resource for you. If you have trouble with distractions, there's typically an emotional component to it. And we want you to solve that. So grab that product, you get a coach, and there'll be a link there in the show notes. But Lisa, this has been great today. Any other thoughts?
No, I think that as we are all working toward functioning adult to adults, our world is just a whole lot better place.
It is.
And being able to recognize, as the healthier that I get and the more adult to adult I can make it, the easier it is for me to recognize, hey, they're kind of functioning out of their challenging adolescent, or they're functioning out of their intimidated child, or they're functioning out of their controlling parental. And I can just know, okay, just giving them space, because they're back in their amygdala. They're not functioning out of their wise adult and their prefrontal cortex. And I just know it's okay. I just give them space, and it's for me to not take it personally.
Yeah.
And then I can respect them and honor them that way.
Yeah, that's really good. I think for me, Lisa, I'm thinking about unhealthy leaders create unhealthy organizations.
Yeah.
Unhealthy leaders create unhealthy teams. Now, listen, you might be middle management, might be leading a team, might be in a team. Like every relationship, unhealthy relationships,
Yeah.
right, have unhealthy people in it. So the best way for me to really help people and help teams and help organizations is really to help myself become healthier and healthier.
Yeah, because your organization is only as healthy as the unhealthiest person.
Yeah, so work on getting healthy people, right? You be healthy and own your own strengths, step into that adulthood. Don't go to that adaptive child, and you're going to see amazing results. I think we're done today, Lisa. So listen, Emotionally Intelligent is a resource for you. We'll have that there as a link, and we'll see you next time on the Drama Free Living Podcast.